Hi, this is Sheila with Conscious Conversation Central. Oh, let me hit the YouTube live button.
Yes, please do.
That's important.
Uh-huh.
So today is Friday, March the 13th, 2020, and we are going live again to pick up where we left off of our multidimensional decoding of President Trump's Oval Office address of March the 11th, 2020. And I'm sorry for the bit of the, I'm joined tonight, of course, with my gal pal posse. See, I'm not even looking at you guys. That's why I get all discombobulated.
We're here.
I'm so glad.
Here.
So my gal pal posse, BZ Rieger and Lisa Flameno Rush. Welcome back, ladies. Thank you so much for everyone who has or is joining us. I know that we're a bit late. I had some connection issues at first, but we're here now. So we're gonna, when I made the event, I said we were picking up at paragraph 14, but because I didn't do my own check mark, I was wrong. We did paragraph 14 last night. So we're picking up at paragraph 15. And I don't know, do you want to just jump right into this? Do we want to talk about what happened briefly today? What do y'all want to do?
Well,
I don't want to derail us.
I think let's jump into this because since I printed it out, it's over there going, psst.
I gotcha.
So we'll be back at some point very soon for that day.
Yeah, exactly, right. So we're getting into the exciting stuff now.
Yeah, let's go.
Yeah. Okay. So this is President Trump's remarks. Additionally, last week I signed into law $8.3 billion funding bill to help CDC and other government agencies fight the virus and support vaccines, treatments, and distribution of medical supplies. Testing and testing capabilities are expanding rapidly day by day. We are moving very quickly. So the 4 words that I underlined were fight the virus and then treatments. And for me, again, here the virus is speaking to the coronavirus. It's also speaking to, as Lisa's talked about, the virus of the mind and the foreign virus. So, many things in that. And support vaccines, but also supportive treatment. So oftentimes there's a lot of it, one of the things that came to mind when I first heard him said, I thought, oh, well, there you go. That's a nod to all the alternative medicine and alternative doctors who have been knocked off, especially ones that have proven and fairly simple remedies for things like, cancer and that kind of stuff. So this is a way to open that door that things are moving in the right direction. He's, like I said, because of his son, he understands right in his face, point blank personal, just what has gone on in the past. And that's another thing, in this statement and in a tweet, he says, I think we'll get to it later, but he says that he will do whatever it takes to take care of all American citizens, the health and well-being of all American citizens. So he's not going to say that. Trump may be lambasted for a whole bunch of things, but he does follow through, on the things when he's being genuine and not trolling about it.
Yeah, because there's a difference. So that's what stood out for you?
Yeah, that's what stood out for me. And the distribution of medical supplies. So again, the pictures that I got of the distribution of medical supplies were not just masks and all that kind of stuff. What came to me were like, how would you say it? You know, perhaps mini, like you have the amethyst mat, those kinds of medical supplies that are helping, you know, with the foreign entity, the foreign virus. So that was what immediately came into me. I was seeing that, you know, there would either be distribution centers where you could go if you had your own vehicle that could pick them up if they weren't that big, or they would be delivered or something. So those are the kinds of things that immediately came and highlighted for me as what that referred to. I wasn't thinking of a box, you know, with a mask and a couple of gloves and, you know, toilet paper kind of a thing. So it was more of that kind of technology and supplies.
Mm-hmm.
So what came in for you, Lisa?
Well, I was kind of thinking along those same lines there when I read the distribution of medical supplies. That's kind of right where I went with it too. The actual technologies, if you will, that have been suppressed, like a releasing of those. And then also there's something about testing and testing capabilities.
Right.
And I wasn't feeling that in terms of the, you know, swabbing for the corona, but more sort of a testing of our ability to feel into a thing, you know, on a grander picture. And that I felt like, I kind of feel like they've been testing the waters. They, our higher selves, that, you know, the greater portions of us have been kind of pushing us out, you know, a little further from our comfort zone than we've ever been as a collective. And then gauging the reaction to that, if you will. And it felt like we've been passing these little tests with flying colors, and that we've actually bumped up the timeline, if you will.
Yes.
Because I have a feeling that originally, you know, there was more of a plan to roll it out rather slow. And I feel like based upon our reaction to all these testings, everything's been sped up, because it seems that we're stepping up and that we're flowing with it now. Right. And, you know, like all the tides, all the boats are rising.
Yes, and when you're saying that, what came in right there is that we're not the majority are not feeling the need to say, well, wait a minute, like that's something new, got to catch up. They just go with it. So that something new comes in, or something occurs to them, or something out of the blue, or they see whatever it is, however it transforms for them. And they just jump right on board. It doesn't matter that 2 seconds ago they'd never heard of that, never occurred to them. But also, I just want to read that part again, because, so listen to this second to last, well, both last sentences, after what Lisa just highlighted. And you'll see, so testing and testing capabilities are expanding rapidly day by day. So the testing, as Lisa just said, we're being tested. And testing our capabilities as we're tested. So we're being tested, and we're testing our capabilities in, you know, a response, in a reply, in an experiential, well, hi, let me figure that out kind of a thing. And we're moving very quickly.
Well, so for me, what I got, I have to go back up to the paragraph that we did last night, where he talked about cutting massive amounts of red tape to make the antiviral therapies available in record time. For me, that goes with what came in for me about paragraph 15, partly because and I have the benefit now today too of having watched his live address from the Rose Garden today.
Right.
And so on a very 3D level, a lot of red tape has been cut. in regards to a lot of outdated and apparently totally unnecessary, unneeded regulations that had to do with, you know, the cogs of government and how they drag everything out forever to get things approved and whatever. And what came in specifically for me about that is that word support vaccines. Okay, now I know there's been a lot of people that have gone way over the deep end because, you know, like I said, they, you know, everybody thinks Trump's all this great thing and now he's pushing vaccines. And I don't feel like this is a push at all. Again, for me, you know, having had the paragraph prior first was important, number one, and support vaccines. Now, there's two ways one can look at that, and as far as I'm concerned, we sort of talked about that last night, where you have to make them available for those who think that that's what, you know, they want or they need or they demand or whatever, because everybody gets to choose. Everybody gets to choose. And quite frankly, if he didn't use this language, of course they would attack him like they did when he shut the borders to China. So, you know, when he wouldn't let China come in right away. But the way it's worded, for me, support vaccines can also mean something else, in that, yeah, we'll support this because obviously it's what some people want. But there's also, when you think of support personnel or support, you know, I don't know. For me, there was
vaccines of vitamin E and those kinds of things, or vitamin D, to help with because everybody's talked about how when it's warmer in the sun, well, more sun, right? Depending on where you live, well, around here anyways. So vitamin D, and I mean, that's one of the recommended things to take. So that's what I'm
saying. Isn't it possible? I mean, you know, there's a lot of power, okay, and we all know there's a lot of power in language, in words. And you say vaccine to some people and they think, oh, they're giving us a cure, right? So for me, that's kind of what came in. And I too felt very much the suppressed, oppressed, off-world technology in the distribution of the medical supplies. Again, with the cutting of the red tape. And he actually mentioned it again today in regards to cutting red tape. And so, you know.
See, now that's the thing that I would go do that comes to mind is, what's the origination, the etymology of cutting red tape? That's just like, Lisa, you want to share what you talked about what this year is?
Yes. So in this area, Virginia and North Carolina specifically, I know because I lived in both of those places, this year is the year that the 17-year cicadas come out. And so we looked up the symbolism on that one, and that would be rebirth, a symbol of rebirth. How fitting is that?
Yeah, so I'll go later, or someone can put it in the chat, but cutting red tape. What the etymology?
Yeah, that's a good thing. Since you brought that up, BZ, I want to take a second and welcome everyone, because we got 12 folks watching. Carpe diem, aloha. Glad you could make it back. Fawn, Denmark, of course, has joined us. Hawkeye is in the house. Ojo is in the house. That's Lisa's dad. All right. Team Trump, Kevin Westring made it. Awesome. He says, sorry, I'm late. Actually, we were a little late too, so
Yeah.
right on time. And so if any one of you guys want to do us a favor and take a look at the origin of the saying cutting red tape, put it in the comments. That would be awesome.
Yes.
Would love that. That way, and so that was it. I wanted to, and anyone else that's watching, if you want to say who you are, where you're watching from, awesome. I did say Team Trump, didn't I, Tim? Or no? Because he said Tim is here.
I'm going to go on to 16.
Yep, go ahead.
The vast majority of Americans, the risk is very, very low. Young and healthy people can expect to recover fully and quickly if they should get the virus. The highest risk is for elderly population with underlying health conditions. The elderly population must be very, very careful. So the two things that came up for me, and it, yes, some of them were obviously directly related to the focus being the coronavirus, if that's in fact the focus. But the first part, the vast majority of Americans, the risk is very, very low. And then the very last part, the elderly population must be very, very careful. That I definitely got the feeling that that there was, warning's not the right word, there was kind of putting a fine point on trusting in that, and also for others to help and support both sides of that. So what I mean is that a lot of what's going on with the sequestering of people, or the not having big sporting events and all that kind of stuff, is, yes, if you're actually going on the full ruse of the virus, then you don't want that spreading. But think of it this way: if okay, in my mind, there's not an if. So you have huge ammunition and you fire it off, and your bazookas and your howitzers kind of go psst, psst, and the shell just drops, doesn't drop very far, maybe hits a half a person and a little bit over there, and that's about it. And you're now thinking of a wounded animal or a cornered animal that's in its death throes. So they're lashing out. So if you take away targets, if you remove the large groupings of people under the ruse of X, then no more than 250 people. Well, from a loosh factor, from a chaos factor, from a false flag factor, it's just not that exciting. And you've got to put so much ammunition into doing it. And look what the ammunition you put into doing this thing, and the howitzers are just right. So that's what I've felt all along with these, and why they're rolling out so fast, because there's a timeline here. And so that's part of what I felt in that. The other part is the elderly population must be very, very careful. I got the sense of that one, they're easy prey, yes, for the virus, especially if they have pre-existing, but also for what is going on here. I know that some of what occurred with the fatalities from the virus in Washington State, the first ones in the country, were in nursing homes, and there were things going on that were brought to, I think they were known by many, but were brought to light in a very spotlighted way. That would be, regardless of the virus, are things that are very detrimental to the elderly population, as purely as a way that this system in this country works. So I think this is also ways to bring to light, and they need, there are some elderly that are spot on and wider awake than the youngins around, and but for some, if their mindset is such that it truly does shatter the mind in the koan, the whole dissonance that arises, and that's also part of what's being alluded to. That's my take on it.
How about you, Lisa?
Well, I had a similar reaction to this paragraph. I went with the very, very low, right? And I felt like, well, the young are very flexible as far as releasing, you know, things that don't work anymore. Just this, oh yeah, let's get rid of that and we'll move over here. In terms of thinking, because I'm thinking again like mind virus at this juncture, and that the very elderly, you know, they're so accustomed to the way things have always been done, that this, well, even like one of the things that a question a reporter had today was about challenging that Trump just came in and changed everything. And she was saying, do you think that's wise? And in the midst of this traumatic experience, that you should just be getting rid of all the old people, and you know, to me it meant the established ways of doing things. And I really do see that being quite difficult for some folks. And so I kind of went that way too, that it's time to rally around and support those that might be having a difficult time just even grasping what is going on, especially with how quickly the changes are coming. So I've kind of went right along with BZ on that one.
And on the quickly changes, you know, I would say that we haven't even hit stride of the quickness yet in this phase of
right. We're still in the testing phase.
that the action is really happening, you know. Well, I mean, as far as what's really going on,
right?
You know, so things have happened fairly fast, but I don't think, in fact, I'm certain of it, that we're at a snail's pace right this minute compared to what the storm is planned, yeah, and what's going on.
Well, so for me, and I know that our audience, those that will be watching this later even, unless you have a copy of the remarks, you won't see this. But, you know, punctuation is everything too.
Right.
And in here, the vast majority of Americans, colon.
Right.
And the risk is very, very low, period. That is one full sentence, one complete thought. So I found that very interesting. Just overall, I don't know exactly what it's pulling in for me, but I found I found that very interesting. And it means something, I'm just not sure what. As far as the highest risk being the elderly population, and he says with underlying health conditions, but that actually relates to anyone with underlying health conditions, although I guess some might consider me elderly, especially the young ones. But I do have underlying health conditions. And quite frankly, a lot of folks who think they are healthy also have underlying health conditions. Personally, I would say the vast majority of Americans have underlying health conditions because we don't properly care for our bodies. And personally, when you said that, BZ, about this bringing out like conditions and things like that in nursing homes, that sort of thing. And Dr. Fauci said it again today. As people age, their immune system is not what it used to be, number one, partly again because of the lack of overall nutrition, hydration, these sorts of things, right? Yeah. So for me, on a multi-dimensional level, I feel like the name of this game is the ascension descension game. Our bodies are changing, which we'll get to that too. I should have got to that with the testing capabilities, but at any rate, and our aspects of ourselves are coming into these bodies. So I feel like we have a lot going on here, overall, and I see the brilliance in this whole thing, from a whole bunch of different layers, and because it's going to, I think, call everyone's attention to their own underlying health conditions.
Yes, it is. Yes.
Certainly has me,
Yep.
you know.
Same.
So,
Well, and as you say that, also with all the things that for me are clearly being pointed at, it's also a way to realize that your body is your vessel. It's not only what houses you, but it actually it's all your superpower. You know, it's the casing for all your superpowers, all those things. So it's not just about well, that's a good way to put it. So those underlying conditions are also something that would be infringing upon things moving very, very quickly with the testing of capabilities.
yeah.
Testing of ability.
Yep.
Yeah. I wanted to jump back to over here because we got some takers on the red tape.
Okay.
Oh, wonderful.
Yeah. So Kevin Westring said, I feel like it's cutting through all the previous delays. He talks about the Jasara was to be done with the Clinton administration in the early 90s from what he researched. Team Trump, Tim, he says, red tape is an idiom that reference to excessive regulation or rigid conformity to formal rules that is considered redundant or bureaucratic and hinders or prevents action or decision making, etc. Let's see. Fawn says, I feel cutting red tape is to heal everyone anyway they can with no restrictions. I like that too. No restrictions on what each one of us choose as our healing methodologies, I would say too.
Mhm.
Did anybody find out when was the first time it was used?
No. Team Trump said it's usually applied to government, corporation, other large organizations.
Right, but there was some event,
Yeah.
there was some
that would
demarcation
start that.
where it was coined and used, and that will be a tie-in here.
Well, Carpe Diem offers the red tape was used to bind the most important administrative dossiers that required immediate discussion by the Council of State and separate them from issues that were treated in an ordinary admin.
There you go. That's what I was looking for. That's what I got nudged to look it up. So he's telling us what else is being cut that has nothing to do with this virus and
Right.
vaccine or anything else. That's right there is very, very, can you read that again? Incredibly important. That's a huge neon dot pointer right there.
Yes, thank you, Carpe Diem. The red tape was used to bind the most important administrative dossiers that required immediate discussion by the Council of State. Where are you getting this from, Carpe Diem, if you don't mind my asking? And separate them from issues that were treated in an ordinary admin. Fawn says the origin of the term, it's believed originated in the early 16th century when Charles V, the King of Spain, the Holy Roman Emperor, started to use red tape. Hold on, it's going too fast now. In an effort to modernize the administration of his vast empire. Charles V was the proud heir to the three most powerful and famous dynasties of Europe. Yeah, see, that's where Carpe Diem got it too. Huh. So, well, I knew the reason I asked was Council of State. That's a whole different. That's what called my attention to. It's not new. This is not new at all. So interesting. You're right. And he has been using that quite a bit. Actually, he tweeted it a couple different times here recently.
Right.
So.
I mean, it's a significance in a it's a significance, and it's not, has nothing to do, well, I mean, yeah, okay, we're cutting red tape on vaccines, and sure, okay, fine, but if the reason I say to go back to it, he's also telling you what's being done right now behind the, and not that behind the scenes, as far as go orders, as far as implementation of orders, as far as, you know, capturing of different data.
Well, absolutely. I think
Evidence
you're right
and
about that too.
being. So yeah. So he's talking about the virus, you know, la la la, whatever he's saying, and then it's the same thing that he's saying. He's also giving you chapter and verse about what directives either have already been covertly been enacted or are about to be, and not just covertly. Okay, so I'm going to go on to 17.
Mm-hmm.
In particular, we are strongly advising that nursing homes for the elderly suspend all medically unnecessary visits. In general, older Americans should also avoid non-essential travel in crowded areas. So for me, it's the avoid non-essential travel in crowded areas. Again, this goes back to the to some of the other things you're seeing. Yes, could easily be for just the beer virus, but I'm sensing that they're picked on big intel, or what was there was a round, yeah, that was a little bit more the threats that went out. Holder had very, very, very thinly veiled threats. Comey did to Barr and Trump. Just, I think it was Wednesday. They were bringing up JFK and Robert Kennedy.
Oh, really? I missed that.
Yeah.
So they were waxing about how unfortunate that was, and I mean, it was an obvious as could be threat, because Robert was his attorney general.
Yeah.
So anyways, but that's my sense there, is that, again, it has to do, there was some kind of thing as well, because it's pulling it out in a very specific way for that specific age group.
Okay, so having that on board, that actually lends a whole new layer to that for me. With the idea of, well, because there's a lot of elite dinosaurs out there that are very, very elderly.
Yes, it could be the other warning to them as well.
That's why I said you just pulled in a whole new layer of this, because you're right. Well, and in all of these communications, so far as I can tell, they are so multi-layered that, you know, if we can tell the elderly population of the United States to be very, very careful, well, that means all you elderly people out there, including the ones who think they are safe. So I don't know. I thought
No, absolutely. So you think the elderly population must be very, very careful.
All the elderly population, get me?
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, wow.
Okay, anybody else have anything on 17?
No, because I was right there with the two. Well, especially the one about the crowded places. I just thought, yeah, crowds aren't safe for many reasons right about now.
Okay, number 18.
Well, wait a minute. I'm sorry. Something just came in because I was looking at this and oh, never mind. No, it is 17 still. In general, older Americans should also avoid non-essential travel in crowded areas. Um, I mean, honestly, for the most part, a lot of older Americans ain't all that down with crowds. So again, for me, this actually feels a bit, this goes more to that whole veiled thread of his own too. Again, sort of, you know what I mean?
Yeah, that's why I underlined it. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, 18. My administration is coordinating directly with communities with the largest outbreaks, and we have issued guidance on school closures, social distancing, and reducing large gatherings.
I'm sorry, we've been having a lot of fun with that social distance.
Well, I was going to say, I just. And, you know, if you're social distancing, you might actually start to think for yourself. Was one of the things that came up for me on that.
Yeah, I like that.
That'd be a good idea, but maybe the brain would engage and one would go, huh.
Yeah, I also had this vibe, and I know it's not said here, but I just kind of felt that, like, it's okay to stay home and be quiet.
Yeah.
Just like to just sort of, it's all right to, because, you know, so much of our lives is about running to and fro, and, you know, the radio's going and the TV's going, and there's just this constant movement. And I felt like this, in this paragraph in particular, it was like, it's okay just to go home and sit for a minute, you know, put some distance between your normal activities and, you know, do some reflecting.
So here's something that came in really video and all with what you just said, Lisa. There are very large source initiated. There are very large pulses that are part of the process design. And so if you've got everybody, they can't go here, they can't go there, they can't be on a subway, they can't fly there, you know, this, that, and the other thing, just stay home. Well, then there's going to be less of them falling out of the sky when the pulse comes. And I'm talking about a pulse that actually interrupts. It's not from, you know, it's not nefarious or that kind of stuff, but it interrupts the actual communication of electronics and something. It's very short. But, you know, if you're cruising at an cruising altitude, not at all would be the best amount of time to have that kind of. In cars, because most cars, you know, their ignition is driven on computer technology and stuff. So that's a thought that came into mind when you were talking about. Yes, and also it's helpful for ascension and all that. But again, there's a time. It definitely feels like we're full out in an op, having done lots of them. We're full out in an op, and we have the clock is running certain points. You know, we got to get to that bush by, you know, 0901, and we got to get here, and we've got support coming over here, and all these different things, and we're rolling on that, on the op timeline. And the op timeline, as we talked about a few minutes ago, jumps and fast forwards based on the testing, being tested, and testing capabilities, and moving forward.
Well, I'm in agreement with what you're saying there, but just to be clear, for me, because some will hear the idea of a pulse and things falling out of the sky and say, "Oh God, they're talking about they're going to do something to us." No, I really don't feel that at all. I know that there are a lot of folks, because I've again, I belong to a lot of different groups, And I pretty much, I'm just scrolling through to see what everybody's talking about, but there have been a lot of folks who think that this, while they're not giving a lot of credence to the actual virus itself, but there's an awful lot of folks who think this is the precursor to rounding people up, you know. And again, I really don't feel like that's the case.
I don't feel that vibe either.
Well, let me just play with that for a minute. So if that was the case, and so then someone that would be then thinking that Q and all of that, right, would be part of that, right? So that was a turncoat, Trojan horse, all that kind of stuff, right? Okay. Well, then that's really, really, really stupid and inane planning from the people who would be planning that, from a purely logistics, connectivity, and realizing that there's a syncopation in the self-learning, in the self-actualizing, in the self-fulfillment of your own capabilities, right? Because now you got this enormous army worldwide, digital army, research army, going within army, connecting the dots army. A lot of them are armed, and you're going to turncoat on them? Really poor planning, because that will not end well.
No, you're absolutely right. But
so if that isn't obvious to just about everybody, now's a good time to make it obvious. Because
no, you're absolutely right. But to be clear about that now, the groups, the ones that I've seen talking similarly about that, also, for whatever the reasons, think that Q is an op that's got everybody lulled to sleep. And, you know, nobody's going to be, because, you know, so that's what I'm saying. There are those out there. There's not many, thank goodness, but there are some who have this, you know, oh, that's just somebody, you know, that, and actually it has been put forward thinking that that's, well, you know, controlled opposition.
Well, that's what I'm saying. Great. If I'll entertain that premise. I'm just saying, if that's the case, then the ones who came up with that masterful plan seriously miscalculated, because what did they do? They just put everybody through awakeness training and stand on your own training and think for yourself training and don't be a sheep training and all these other kinds of training. So that's going to backfire, you know, poorly, if that's the case, and it may very well be, you know, that's fine. It was poorly thought out, because
no, I'm in agreement.
You've got everybody building all of their muscles on all of their bodies, right? And you've enhanced your foe.
No, I'm in total agreement with you. That's why I said, but there are those, and I had to, because, you know, when you talk about a pulse and things dropping out of the sky, it just kind of, there are those who will go running willy-nilly. And because look at what, I'm sorry, but apparently there's no toilet paper left on earth right now.
Well, no, I got some in my house.
Well, I mean, you know, it just doesn't make sense.
Okay, I'm going to go on to 19.
All right.
Smart action today will prevent the spread of the virus tomorrow. Well, I'm sorry, but that sentence right there has nothing. It's overtly pointing at the foreign virus and all of the the unwinding and binding. Smart action in unwinding and binding all of this now means that, and I've said it a lot, Heather said it a lot, lots and lots of people have said it a lot, we never have to do this again. We don't need to go through this. You know, we've milked it for all there is, and there's lots of other playgrounds we can play in, and we don't have to do this one ever again.
Yeah.
I'm checking the chat, guys.
Good.
want to
Thank
keep.
you for that.
Oh, we're up to 21 folks. Thank you guys for tuning in.
Nice.
Apparently, Rider on the White Horse has joined us, and he's talking about the Hopi. I guess there's a lot of folks going out to the Hopi Mesas, Four Corners. I'd like to contact me about that, Rider on the White Horse. I'd like to learn more about that later, if you don't mind. That sounds interesting.
Yeah.
Okay, I just wanted to check in on everyone. Apparently there are those who feel that Q is a quantum computer. I think it's more like a team, but hey, I can't rule anything out on that. But
Well,
so anyway,
Q is quantum.
Say what?
The Q is quantum.
Well, no, I figured that. Well, there's a lot.
But
well,
I mean,
excuse me, but I'm quantum too. So
Yeah, I was just gonna say.
that's exactly what I'm saying. It's right. It's the quantum because it's help. Well, think about it. Think about the ways it's helping you tune into your quantumness, to your capabilities,
Yep.
to your core center of that, to your multidimensionality. It's quantum.
Yep.
What I've always seemed to be standing for me.
No, I'm in full
It's
agreement.
the coherence of that structure.
Yeah, no, I'm in full agreement. I just think it's an entire team rather than just one quantum computer. That's all I feel.
Yes. Okay, so number 20. Every community faces different risks, and it is critical for you to follow the guidelines of your local officials who are working closely with our federal health experts, and they are the best. So for me, I underlined, and they are the best, and because it didn't strike me as just the federal health experts at all. In fact, that isn't what was highlighting for me. And also that my note here is not just your local communities, but your frequency neighborhoods. Mm-hmm. So every community faces different risks. Every frequency neighborhood faces different risks. And it's critical for you to follow the guidelines of energy, of how you focus on things, that what you focus on actually moves you lock, stock, and barrel from one neighborhood to another neighborhood, and you might not like the neighborhood that you all of a sudden have moved to without paying any attention that you just moved lock, stock, and barrel to it.
Now, you know, BZ, we do have some new folks. So when we talk about frequency neighborhoods, I just want to make sure, we're clear what you're speaking on.
Everything is energy.
Yeah.
And everyone can hold several, but many different energy frequencies. And your predominant frequency vibration that you hold, you could look at as a neighborhood. It's a frequency neighborhood. Because when you hold that predominant frequency energy signature, you are attracting, you are bringing to you, coalescing within that bandwidth neighborhood, right? Things that are a resonant match to that. So if the frequency that you're in is, Eeyore-esque, and it's woe me and all that kind of stuff, well, then you get a whole lot of Eeyores trotting around the neighborhood. Yep. And so because you are that powerful, you are calling that to you, you're coalescing with it, coming into coherence with that. So you're actually strengthening the neighborhood. You might even say you might be putting a wall around your neighborhood with all the Eeyores, or with all the grumpiness, or with all of the fearness, or with all of the joyness, or with all of the expansion, or with all of the magical thing. Just out of the blue stuff seems to happen in this neighborhood all the time.
Right. I agree.
So that's, to me, is one of the things that's being, because he said at the beginning, and he says it later on too, that, how we handle this is really the answer to what's going on. And it's true. I mean, so many beings have been talking about that, and certainly my guidance absolutely is I could take this or that or the other thing, and if I want to take vitamin D or whatever it is, that's fine. But how I'm holding my countenance and what neighborhood I'm in and vibrating from. Not only for myself, but when I go to work or when there's a conversation, there's a meeting today about everything going on and all these changes in the state of Washington. They've now closed all schools for 6 weeks. So, and different size meetings, and all that kind of stuff. You can't, anything above 250 people, it's all canceled, all this kind of stuff. So, again, you can play in different frequencies about that, different neighborhoods of, are you going to go to the neighbor who, just think of it on linear terms. Do you are you gravitating and going to the neighbor who's going, oh my God, freaking out, or are you going to gravitate to a neighbor who says, well, hey, we could travel, or hey, we could go do this, or hey, we could just enjoy we have a nice place here in the state of Washington. We could go take a tree bath. We never get a chance to do any of these things, and now we could. We don't have to be on that treadmill, on that rat race. So right. It sounds simple, but it's essential, and that's actually your shield, your cure, your all of that.
Well, yeah, you're right. The one you were referring to, where he said early on, it only matters how you respond.
What
he
paragraph?
said that back in paragraph 5. Donald Trump did.
Yeah.
In regards to all of this, it only matters how you respond. And that was only part of it. And then he went on to say we're responding with speed and professionalism. But for me, that goes to what you're speaking on there.
Yeah.
And I just wanted, because you used the term frequency neighborhood, I wanted you to go into a little bit more about it. So
Mm-hmm.
Thank you for that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So.
And they are the best. The end of that speaks to that. Well, what's the phrase that I say all the time? You're the expert for you.
Yeah.
Yep. You are the
You're
expert.
an expert. You're the best. I mean,
Yeah.
That's how you get to be an expert, right? You're the best. Well, you are the expert for yourself. And see paragraph 5. And it only matters how you respond.
To you. That's right.
Yep.
To you, for you. What did you get, Lisa, from that one?
Well, I didn't get all of that, but I have to say that was beautiful, because I was thinking about, the federal health experts and all of that, and how I caught myself feeling as though everyone else was an expert about me. And so to me, this was just a cue to take back my own power. And it's true. I love the frequency neighborhood thing you were saying there, because what I focus on expands, and that becomes my experience. And what I'm noticing now about these energies in particular is, just that 17 seconds of focus, and I'm swimming in it. And so for me, it's a call to mindfulness again.
No separation between thought and deed. We didn't do that long ago, and I said that it's here now. Yeah.
So for me, every community, well, what I know about me is this is a community.
Mm-hmm.
And it is a universe within itself.
Yes.
Just my physical body, the vessel within which I reside. And he talks here about following the guideline of the local officials. And I too, like BZ, felt like, well, I am the local official for all of this community, meaning all of it, everything that has to do with me. And yes, on a 3D level, I will listen to what they have to say. I'm not going to just go out and, do exactly what they tell me if I don't particularly care for it, because I am the expert for me now. I didn't, because believe me, I followed a lot of what the doctors wanted me to do, and it weren't so good for me. So, of course, they didn't. It's not like they had a whole great deal to work with when they first started, But so I can't put it all on them at all. But yeah, they are the best, because exactly what you said, BZ. I am the expert on me, and I will keep all of that right here.
And the way of, in that vein, for me, one of the reasons it highlighted especially is, and they are the best. So that's a confirmation of not, don't sell yourself short. You're not small, as the way I would say connected to. It's a confirmation of you're not small. And just what you said, Sheila, you can look outside of yourself and go, huh, well, that's kind of interesting. Well, I hadn't thought about that, or no, really not, or well, yeah, I could take a little of this thing, so you can do that, but you are the best. And every being that's on this planet is here for, there's no coincidences. I mean, standing only to get here, and you're here because at this moment you have lots of work and jobs to do, and you needed to be a mission specialist for what you're doing. You may not think that yet. You may not realize that yet. You may not remember that yet. That's okay. But it is so nonetheless.
Yeah, that's why I said I will listen. I will listen to what anyone has to, anyone. I am always open. That I wouldn't be a very good puzzle piece collector if I didn't hear folks out, doctors, anybody. I'll hear anybody out, but I will make the end decision for I. Thank you. So, and it turns out so far I've been doing a bang up job better than they ever did. So, I'll keep that. Thank you.
Okay, let's do 21. For all Americans, it is essential that everyone take extra precautions and practice good hygiene. And this was there was a little bit more in this paragraph, but this was a main one for me. Each of us has a role to play in defeating the virus.
Yeah, I've got to start by that one too.
I mean, that's absolutely a call to action. It's a call to arms. It's a call to listen to your soul, and to step all in, because you're not small.
Yeah, for me, this entire paragraph right here, first of all, with the exception of the one I starred, it really should have been all common sense. I realize, because I've done it too, back in the day when you're trying to make the ends meet, and you got to go make the donuts, because if you don't, you're going to get fired. And then how are you going to feed the kid, make that car payment? I get it. But the truth of the matter is, nobody benefits if you're sick or not taking care of yourself. And nobody benefits, no one. But yeah, for me, that each of us has a role to play in defeating this virus felt very huge, because I really don't think because all the rest of that is common sense, and we all already should have known to wash our damn hands. I mean, I'm sorry, but anybody that's just now learning how to wash their hands, I'm a little worried for you. So all the rest of that, say what?
Goes with Lisa's meme on the toilet paper.
Yeah, I love that meme, man. What was it, Lisa? If you need 144 rolls of toilet paper to fight this virus, you should have been seeing
14 days of
yeah,
should have been visiting the doctor well before the
yeah, right.
something is seriously wrong.
Yes. Well, but see, so for me, that entire paragraph is already common sense, and that's why I start just that one sentence. Because
Well,
each of us has a role to play.
yes.
That speaks to our multidimensionality, our uniqueness.
Well, and why we're here. I mean, what we suited up and got here, and we have things that we agreed to do, and team players and being counted to do. The reason I highlighted the end is because going with, you know, common sense, because he already has funding for that. He has funding so that you don't feel like you have to go to work and this, that, and the other thing. He's got funding that covers the small businesses, and he's got funding that makes sure that, you know, you're not penalized for that.
Which is brand new. I mean, honestly, I was shocked by this because this is wholly unprecedented. And in a way that clearly shouts, we're done with the nonsense.
Yeah. And then you got a reporter, like you said today, asking, well, is that good to just change everything? Yes, that's why we're here. How we got here.
It's officially time.
Right.
Yeah, but see, that just speaks more to trying to tear them down because they know it's time.
Right.
And cause a whole bunch more fear. Oh, we're in the middle of this pandemic. Do you think you should be? Well, what better time? Especially if, I'm sorry, y'all, but I'm going to say it right now. I saw somebody put together a compilation, and if I can find it, I'm going to link it in this video. Somebody put a compilation together of news reports that date back from 2000, the Y2K scare, and how we weren't prepared for this. We're just not prepared for this. And then they progressed, and every single thing for every meme you guys have seen out there, and you've all seen them, you know, the swine flu, the Ebola, the Zika, all of these different things. And in every news report, they come out and say, we're just not prepared. You have got to be kidding me. In 20 years, in 20 god doggone years.
Well, does anybody notice that every election cycle year that there's one of these big viruses? Did you know that?
Yes, I did. I saw that too. There's memes about all of that floating around, and it's apparently the truth. But I mean, honestly,
it is. I went and, you know, because I see a meme and think that's good, and then I go corroborate it, and absolutely.
So that's my point.
Wait a minute. That's so that again is giving, you know, for the person who you heard ask that question last night, Sheila, you know, and I was talking about, well, with the reverse flow chart, right, of the future proves past, you can look at all different things, and that this goes to what we were talking about earlier about all the ammunition that went into lobbing, you know, this howitzer called the Corona beer virus thing, right? Is failed, and they've let it all up. They've tried. It's always been a try, because if your people are sequestered, or people can't go in a group of more than 250, well, that sucks if you're trying to go to a Trump rally, right?
Yep.
And that's hard if you're going to stand in line for voting and gathering, and they're not going to have the voting outside. So I mean, just you don't even have to look at it multidimensionally, but well, you'll start to fly if you do. But just look at it from a purely noticing and logistics point of view, from strictly linear, and you go, whoa, wait a minute. I just named a few things that are really helpful if you're wanting to shut, you know, the momentum in these things down. And if someone is saying, and I think I heard someone whisper, well, they wouldn't do that, then I'm sorry, you need to get a puppy or a kitten or a comfort blanket or something, because the stack of stuff that will be revealed will be so unimaginable to just about everybody, but certainly if you're on the thing that they wouldn't put out a virus or something worldwide. A kitten would be good for comfort, because
Yeah.
it's going to be a rough awakening.
Yeah.
So did anything come in for you on that one, Lisa?
Not, that's different than what's already been discussed.
Well, we've been doing this an hour, and for those of you that are joining us live, I think we're gonna do this again tonight like we did last night. Is that all right with you ladies?
Yeah, let's finish it with this last.
Are you sure? Because this is the big one. This next one, I have written out to side what it means. And for me, it means the end of the IRS.
Okay.
I want to start a new thread for that.
All right.
So I really think for all of you guys that are joining us live, we have 22 people in there right now. This one is the one you've probably, a lot of you have been waiting for us to go over. And I will say again, if you don't have a copy of this and you want one, it is on the IUV, and I have placed a link that you can go in any one of the other ones I made this all as a playlist too. The lives that we did last night, if you go into the playlist, any one of those, you can go straight to the IUV by clicking that link and getting your own copy of this if you wanted to follow along. And so we're going to take about a 5-minute break, and then we'll be right back here live again if you'd like to come back and join us. And I guess that's it. I'll go ahead and end it there. If you haven't subscribed to me in BZ, there are links to do so. Please make sure to do so. And we'll see you in about 5 minutes. Okay? Mwah.